Hi everyone, notes 1.6 are on the cosine law, and before we actually answer these questions up here, I want to take a look at these two notes right here. So primary trigonometric ratios, or SOHCAHTOA, are only used to solve right triangles. Okay, the sine law can only be used to solve triangles if you know one angle and its opposite side, and one other piece of information. So another angle or another side, okay? So if we take a look at what we have right here, it asks us, can we use primary trig ratios or the sine law to solve either of these triangles? Well, for primary trig ratios, they have to be right triangles. So neither of these are right triangles, so no, we can't use primary trig ratios because, sorry about that, they're not right triangles. Okay, and then over here for the side law, remember you need to have one angle and its opposite side. And if you look in this example right here, we can't use the sine law because there are no angles. No angles are given. And for this one right here, we are given an angle, but we don't know its opposite side. So no, because we don't know the side opposite the angle. Okay, so this is where the cosine law will come into play. So the cosine law says that side A is equal to the square root of b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of A. Okay, or we can also say, because sometimes we want to find out side length B is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac times the cosine of B, okay? Or we could find out C, and I want you to fill in the rest. So C is equal to what, okay? Also, there's the modified cosine law, which is just a rearrangement of the formula above. Now, to rearrange the formula above right here, generally the cosine law, this is the actual way to do it. A squared plus b squared minus a equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of A. But we square rooted to get that a alone, and we square rooted to get that b alone. We'll talk in class about how to rearrange this formula right here to get the modified cosine law. So the modified cosine law is going to tell us that angle A is equal to the inverse cosine of b squared plus c squared minus a squared all over 2bc. Okay? Or that B is equal to the inverse cosine of a squared plus c squared minus b squared all over 2ac. So I want you to write out inverse cosine, or C is going to be inverse cosine of what? Okay? So when do we use the cosine law? It can be used to solve triangles when the given information includes either 3 side measures or 2 side measures and the included angle. So for example, if you look up here, we have 3 side measures, so we could use the cosine law here, or here we have the included angle is between the 2 side measures. So our 2 side measures are given to us, and the angle that is given to us is between those 2 side measures. Okay, so here it is, so you can get the information down if you need to. When you're ready, we'll move on to question number 1. Okay, so we're going to try these examples. Question number 1 says to find the measure of the unknown side to the nearest tenth. So in this example here, we are given one side length, another side length, and the included angle. So we need to figure out what this side length is right here. So we have two side measures and the included angle, so we are able to use the cosine law. I want you guys to look up here, and I want you guys to write down a note that this is going to be used to find sides, and this is going to be used to find angles, okay? So since we want to find sides, we're going to use this formula right here. So we know that the formula says A equals the square root of b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of angle A, okay? But in this example here, we have got x, y, and z. So we're going to modify our formula so that it works for us. But before we do that, since this is angle z, this is side length z. And since this is angle x, this is side length x, okay? And we want to find y. So what we'll do is instead of a, we'll say y equals, and it's just going to be the square root of, and here, notice how it's b and c, so as long as it's not a, it works. So as long as here it's not y, it works. So we'll say here, x squared plus z squared minus 2 times b, c, so we're still going to use the same letters here, so x, z, times the cosine of, notice how this right here is side length A, this is angle A, so since this is side length Y, we're going to say cosine of angle Y. And now we're just going to plug in our information. So y is equal to the square root of x squared, which is 11 squared, plus z squared, which is 8 squared, minus 2 times x, which is 11, times z, which is 8, times the cosine of y, which is 36 degrees. Okay? Now the nice thing about Desmos is that you can go straight to Desmos and type this in exactly how you see it right here. So I'm going to go to Scientific Calculator here. I'm going to click on the square root button right here, and I'm literally going to type in every single thing I see as long as it's underneath the brackets here. Okay? So here I'm going to type in 11 squared, okay, plus 8 squared minus 2 times 11 times 8 times the cosine of 36. Okay, I'll close my bracket. If you notice right here, this is exactly what we have written right here. Okay, if I press enter, this is my answer right here. And I'm not sure if the question asks us, oh yeah, the question asks us to round to the nearest tenth. So if I look at my answer here, I go to the tenths place, it's a 5. There's nothing, the 2 that comes after it tells us to keep it at a 5. So this right here is going to tell us that y is approximately equal to 6.5 inches. And that's how you use the cosine law, okay? Okay, so let's take a look at number 2. It says find the measure of the marked angle to the nearest degree. It says use 2 methods. In this video, we're going to use one method, and then in class, I'm going to show you guys how to use the other method, okay? So this time we're trying to find an angle, and since we're trying to find an angle, we're going to use one of these 3 formulas here, okay? So if the angle that I'm trying to find right here is angle C, I'm going to label this side across from it side C, this side across from angle A, side A, and this side across from angle B, side B. And even though I wanted you guys to figure out your formula here, we're going to write down what the formula should say here. So C is equal to the inverse cosine of A squared plus B squared minus C squared all over 2AB. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill in that information right here. So we know that A is 16, so we'll do 16 squared. We know that B is 17, so we'll do 17 squared. And we know that C is 14, so we'll do 14 squared all over 2 times A, which is 16, times B, which is 17. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out what this numerator is going to be. So I'm going to type in 16 squared plus 17 squared minus 14 squared into my calculator here. So again, we're going to type in right here 16 squared plus 17 squared minus 14 squared, and we end up getting 349. So here in our numerator right here, we're going to say inverse cosine of 349 over, now in the denominator here, we need to type in 2 times 16 times 17 right here, and we end up getting 544. So here we're going to say 349 over 544. So then we're just going to say C is equal to, and we're rounding to the nearest degree, so I'm going to take the inverse cosine. So I'll go to function, inverse cosine of 349 over 544, close my bracket, and I end up getting 50 degrees. Okay, that 0 after the ones place tells us to keep the 0 exactly the same. So if we look right here, we end up getting C equals 50 degrees. Okay, all right, so now what I want to do is I want to look at question number 3. It says to solve triangle ABC given A equals 9, B equals 7, and C equals 8. Now if you remember, to solve a triangle, it means to find all missing info. Okay, so if I were to draw a picture, because that's always going to be helpful, okay, we know if this is angle A, then this is side A. If this is angle B, then this is side B. And if this is angle C, this is side C. We know that side A is 9 centimeters. We know that side B is 7 centimeters. And we know that side C is 8 centimeters. So here we're given 3 sides, and what's missing are our 3 angles. Okay, now since we're given 3 sides, we should be able to use the cosine law. Okay, so we can find any one of these 3 sides that we would like to find. Any one of these 3 angles that we'd like to find. So let's just start with finding angle A. Okay, so to find angle A, right here, I'm going to use inverse cosine of b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine, or sorry, minus, I wrote this wrong, minus a squared all over 2bc. Okay, so this right here is going to be the formula that I'm going to use right here. So here, b is 7, so I'm going to do 7 squared. C is 8, so I'm going to do 8 squared. A is 9. All over 2 times B, which is 7 again, times C, which is 8. Okay, so A is going to be equal to inverse cosine of, and I'm going to type this into my calculator right here. So I'm going to type in my numerator, it's 7 squared plus 8 squared minus 9 squared, and I end up getting 32. So this is going to be equal to 32 in the numerator, okay, over, and then in my denominator, I'm going to type in 2 times 7 times 8, and I end up getting 112, okay? So here I'm going to have it as inverse cosine of 32 over 112, and then I just type that into my calculator. So I'm going to do inverse cosine of 32 over 112, and I end up getting about 73 point, let's round to the nearest tenths, that 3, there's a 9 that comes after it. That 9 bumps that 3 up to a 4. So here we're going to say it's equal to approximately 73.4 degrees. Okay, so that's what angle A is, 73.4 degrees. Okay, now let's go ahead and find angle B. So to find angle B, we're going to use the sine law, because now we know that angle A is 73.4, so we have an angle and the side across from it. So here we're going to do sine of A over A equals sine of B over B, okay? And we know that sine of A is going to be sine of 73.4 over little a, which is 9, so we'll just split this up here, is equal to the sine of b right here. We don't know, so we're going to say sine of b over little b we know is 7. So let's go ahead and cross multiply here. So I get 9 sine of b is equal to 7 times the sine of 73.4. Now I'm going to divide by 9, both sides by 9, so I get sine of b equals 7 times the sine of 73.4 over 9, which means that b is equal to the inverse sine, it's the opposite, of 7 times sine of 73.4 over 9. Okay, so let's go ahead and type that in and see what we end up getting right here. Okay. So I'm going to go to function inverse sine of, remember you're going to put the divide sign so you've got your whole entire fraction ready to go. So 7 times the sine of 73.4, and that's going to be all over 9. So here we end up getting 48.2 degrees. Okay, so here we could say that B is equal to 48.2 degrees. And then the last thing we need to do is find C. Sorry, we're going to have to scrunch this in here. But we know that the angles in a triangle will always add up to 180 degrees. So here we'll say 48.2 degrees. Okay, so to find C, I would just do 180 minus A plus B together. So 73.4 plus 48.2. So I get C equals 180 minus, and let's go ahead and figure out what that's going to be. So 73.4 plus 48.2, and I end up getting 121.6, and then I'm going to do 180 minus 121.6, and I get 58.4. So let's go ahead and write this out right here. Minus 121.6, so C equals 58.4 degrees. And then, of course, you would do a therefore statement, but we're not going to do that just because we ran out of space. So we'll just say therefore right here, and that's our final answer. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Good luck with everything, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.